Earlier this month, the White House hinted that President Barack Obama would veto the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, or Jasta.
Well, the morning started out like any other morning when the alarm went off and Tom got up to get ready to go to work. My brother was also visiting, so he was getting up and getting ready as well. We had 3 small children in the house. My oldest, Tommy, was sick, so we decided to keep him home. And my daughter was only 4 years old, and it was going to be her first day of nursery school. She was not awake yet to say goodbye to her dad. And then my baby, my newborn, was just 4 days old. So I got up to take care of the baby, and Tom got ready for work. He left that morning. I can remember when he walked out the door and said, "Goodbye, I'll see you later." He was only planning to work the morning and come home early since we had a newborn in the house. Phone rang again, and I almost didn't answer it and let the machine pick it up because, like I said, he calls all the time. But I went over and I picked up the phone, and I heard this noise in the background that I didn't know what was happening. It sounded very frantic. And it was Tom, and he said, "Terry," he said, "a plane has hit the building." I was standing at that time in front of a television, and there was nothing on the TV in the moments that we were on the phone together. So I just thought small airplane. And he said, "There's a lot of smoke." He said, "Everyone's trying to get out." He goes, "I'm going to go to the stairwell and try to get to the roof." That was kind of since the 1993 bombing was always his plan. If something happened, he'd go to the roof. Actually, he said he would stop, grab a Heineken, go to the roof, and wait to be rescued. So we said our goodbyes, but he said it was scary. And that was it. I hung up the phone, and within maybe a minute, it came on the television set. And when I saw the black smoke billowing out of the North Tower where he was, my heart stopped. I said, "He can't get out of that. Nobody can get out of that." Had to invite my kids into the whole horror of 9/11, which was something, it was bad enough experiencing the day, but nothing compares to having to tell your kids their father has been killed, and he's been killed by the bad guys. I knew they'd see photos, I knew they would see footage, that the fire was so bad, the smoke was so bad, that the angels came and they took Daddy up to heaven because that's where he would be safe, because he wasn't safe in the buildings anymore. We all learned that 15 of the 19 hijackers came from Saudi Arabia. We also then, for me and a lot of the families, we went and we listened to lawyers that were gathering evidence, and they showed us things like the Bojangles plan. This was a plan that had been intercepted by the FBI, a few years earlier, and it was about how they were planning to use airplanes as missiles, as weapons. And we learned more about Al-Qaeda, and we learned a lot more about Osama bin Laden. And he was a Saudi national as well. They tried to paint it as a black sheep, that, he was shunned, but we never believed that for a second. We always believed the money was coming from somewhere. And we have a lot of evidence against the Saudis, and more is coming out, every few months. I mean, even Moussaoui, who's maybe known as the 20th hijacker, who's in lockdown in Colorado prison, Max prison, he's even testified in favor of us, because he said he was the bookkeeper for the Saudis. It was all the money was coming from the royal family to Osama bin Laden, and he's very angry the way the kingdom does not own up. First and foremost, my husband was murdered at the age of 41. I was 38 years old when I was widowed, left to raise my children alone without him. I absolutely want accountability for that murder, and so do all of the 9/11 families. Since 9/11, 1,000 more people have died from their exposure to ground zero, to the toxic fumes and what they did trying to rescue loved ones and the cleanup. Those families deserve accountability as well. I'm raising children in a post-9/11 world. They deserve a safer America, and I don't feel we are safer 15 years later because we've never dealt with the terrorists, the people that funded the terrorist organizations in the first place. So since some of this funding was given outside of our borders, they said that they were entitled to immunity. But that's a misinterpretation. That is not what Congress ever intended. If somebody meets someone in a cafe in New York City and gives them a check and says, "I want you to go blow up this building," and they do it, and we can trace it back to a foreign nation, we can hold that foreign nation accountable in our courts. But if the same person gives a check to the same person in a cafe in Geneva, Switzerland, and says, go blow up that building, and they do it, and we trace it back to them, we can't hold that nation accountable because they gave the money outside of our borders. So Jasta will just tighten up that loophole, and it's being called the Saudi bill, the 9/11 bill, but it's really an American bill. It's for all Americans, because once you can hold the financiers accountable and hopefully, stem the flow of money that they keep giving to these terrorist organizations, we can, have a safer country. We can be winning the war on terror more than we are now. So we say that Jasta, the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act, that's the name of the bill, is a tool in our arsenal against terrorism.